by order of the Peaky Blinders.
Anyway, we're Peaky Blinders. We're not scared of coppers.
That's right.
If they come for us, we'll cut them a smile each.
My word to who? To a Peaky Blinder?
Arthur Shelby of the Peaky Blinders.
Thomas, you're a bookmaker, a robber, a fighting man. You're not a fool.
Did you know they were going to do it before they did it? Because that's someone who's in charge, isn't it? And who knows before it happens.
I know what I know. If you don't know, then you don't fucking know, do you?
I gotta tell you, it is a crazy time to be alive, no doubt about it. Thankfully, we finally, for the first time in 3 years, we can spend some time with the Shelbys and get away from it all. Because this is the PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast, and we are your very own private way down in Kokomo. Behind the bar tonight, we've got myself, Jamie G. Esquire, the 5th MD, Master of Surgical Arts. And I'm here mixing drinks, talking Peaky Blinders with my main man, my co-host, Magnum Mills. Mills, it's Peaky time, baby.
Oh, I mean,
Arthur!
It's like, Arthur, Aruba, Jamaica. Ooh, I want to take you to Canada. Hey, we're in Canada. That's Peaky. All right, in all seriousness, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for listening and or watching. And right here, this is your warning. We're about to spoil the shit out of episode 1 of season 6 of Peaky Blinders. And we will also be spoiling, obviously, all episodes that came before this.
Yes, we are. Spoil away, my dear sir. Episode 1 of season 6 is titled Black Day. This one originally aired on February 27, 2022 on BBC One, which Magnum Mills isn't too far off from ESPN 8, The Ocho. This episode was directed by Anthony Byrne, who also directed all 6 episodes of season 5. It was written by creator/showrunner Stephen Knight, which is something that excited me heading into this one, Magnum Mills.
Yeah, really enjoyed season 5. So bringing that crew back together as the writer-director tandem seems like a great idea. Jamie G, let's briefly recap what happened in Black Day. We pick up right where we left off at the end of season 5. Tommy pulls the trigger, but the gun is empty. Lizzie tells Tommy that Arthur removed the bullets. Tommy receives a call from the IRA claiming responsibility for foiling the assassination attempt on Mosley, and they inform Tommy that they will be dropping off bodies of his dead family and friends. We see Tommy look upon the corpses, and he sees Barney, Abraham Gold, and finally, Polly. At Polly's funeral, the audience hears Michael vow revenge on Tommy as the entire Shelby clan watches Polly's funeral pyre burn.
And just like that, Magnum Mills, boom, it's 4 years later. We get our first dope needle drop of the season, and Tommy, in typical Tommy badass fashion, makes his way through a town in Newfoundland. That's right. We've gone to Canada, eh? Nice Canadian tux, bro. We discover that the prohibition is about to end. That's a big fucking deal. We also see Michael now sporting an extremely douchey looking mustache. Absolutely hate it. He arrives on a boat with a gang of his own. Tommy arrives at a bar dressed to the nines, my man. Briefcase in hand, ready for business. Tommy declines to drink and gets into a bit of a fracas with some bar customers. Phone winds up being the only casualty of the scuffle and possibly a dove, and Tommy goes into the back room for his big meeting.
Yeah, they do have those pigeons there. I thought it was a nice little John Woo shout out. Probably not, but why not? And that big meeting in the back room is with Michael and his gang we saw, which are some mobsters from Boston. Michael's wife, Gina, is a niece of a powerful Boston figure they call Uncle Jack. Her uncle is actually Jack Nelson. Tommy called the meeting to try to pitch them on using the bootleggers who now won't have a job to the end of Prohibition to run his opium instead. He gives them a 5-pound sample to check out. Again, here, Tommy catches a bunch of shit for not drinking, and he actually winds up reciting a bit of poetry by William Blake. The mobsters indicate that they'll have to bring the deal to Uncle Jack for him to approve or disapprove of.
Uncle Jack decides all. And after that, Magnum Mills, we check out the rest of the Shelby family who are celebrating Christmas back in Birmingham. The children are having a blast, and any money problems are obviously a distant memory. Arthur, my boy, is supposed to be dressed up as Santa Claus. but he's way too fucked up to do anything but fall down the stairs and mumble words that we don't really know what they mean. In other words, it's a pretty typical day in the life of Arthur Shelby. We see that he finally gets the Santa suit on at some point, but that seems to be as far as he got. The Shelby women have their hands full as they got a million kids running around. They're taking care of all the children and Arthur. Ada answers the phone in Tommy's office and lets out a proper fuck. We follow Ada to a local opium den who threatens the owners about what will happen if they serve Arthur opium ever again. We also see Carl has like a set of nuts on him. Homie grew up a little bit here.
Yeah, he was like, can I answer the phone? So we'll see what happens. And, she didn't quite carve a Z in Arthur's chest, but she did maybe paint him with a little bit of lipstick on his chest. So, not quite the Z. And then we see Tommy. He goes and he visits Gina at her, you could say lavish home. You could say castle. I mean, holy shit, that's crib. And she is very excitingly celebrating the end of Prohibition. And she brags to Tommy about all the moves that Uncle Jack is making on his trip over to Europe. Gina is really pissed at Tommy, and she relishes telling Tommy that Uncle Jack has declined his deal. At that point, Tommy has had enough of her shit, and he tells her that he was the one who got Michael arrested. Tommy wanted Uncle Jack to have to make a tough decision about whether or not to use his influence to get Michael out of jail. Tommy tells Gina that if Uncle Jack doesn't take his deal, he's going to offer to the East Boston Jews, a gang run by the Solomons family.
Yes, oh yes, Magnum Mills. Lizzie calls Tommy to let him know that their daughter Ruby is sick, so they won't be able to come to Boston, burning up with a goddamn fever. Lizzie tells Tommy that Ruby is saying gypsy words in her sleep and had a vision about a man with green eyes. Tommy flips out into a complete frenzy, orders Lizzie to do everything that Johnny Dogs and his gypsy wife tells her to do. This is gypsy shit. He apologizes and he says it'll be on the next steamer home. Emergency, urgent, code 911, leave business, head home to Ruby.
Well, and almost, because before heading home, Tommy makes a stop at prison to visit Michael. Tommy uses the knowledge about Uncle Jack's operations that he got from Gina to throw Michael off. Michael tells Tommy that he's dead already because he threatened to sell to the East Boston Jews. Tommy gives Michael a letter that indicates Uncle Jack is going to let Michael remain in prison for a while. As he leaves, Tommy tells Michael that he will be happy to show Gina around London, if you know what I mean.
Oh, baby, I picked up on it. There's a little bit of sexual tension going on.
I think there is, and I think we're going to have to talk about that. And I will say, man, once again, Tiki ends the episode in a way that just like, there was no next button this time. Netflix wasn't autoplaying it in 10 seconds. I didn't know what to do. So, man, let's we want to break this thing down. But before we do, let's just go over a couple notes real quick.
Absolutely, Magnum Mills. The show paid tribute to the late Helen McCroy, and the episode was dedicated to her. The show chose to have Polly die off scene, which seems like the best choice they had, and just really an unfortunate situation. I thought it was done really well, though. I'm really proud of the show for how they handled this.
Yeah, they took the best of a bunch of not great options here. It's always unfortunate when someone passes away unexpectedly. And, Tommy and Michael got most of our attention this episode, but we did get to see the entire Shelby clan at Polly's funeral. There's that. And
absolutely.
Why is that important?
Well, Magnum Mills, we've been guilty of this before. So we just want to let y'all know that even though motherfuckers sometimes forget about Finn, we did not. We saw him at Paul's funeral, and homie's he's getting that chiseled chin. I mean, Finn with the chiseled chin, he's coming on full effect. Yeah, don't forget about Finn. Don't sleep on Finn now.
Yeah, we can fit next to Slim with the tilted brim, and motherfuckers do act like they forgot about Finn. So we did not. And for the record, while they both appear in the credits as the main cast here, neither Tom Hardy or Stephen Graham appeared in this episode. We do, however, hear Tommy, as I said, refers to the Solomons family.
Magnum Mills, now that we got that out of the way, baby, let's get into this episode and start breaking it down, man. I mean, right off the bat, we have Tommy pulling the trigger. This whole scene, spoiler alert, this involves my episode MVP, and that's Lizzie, dude. Like, this whole scene I thought was beautifully done in the fucking fog. I love how they picked it right up where it left off with that massive cliffhanger in season 5. I don't know, it looked like it was 8 inches of just wet mud slop. I mean, that shit was crazy. And he's just laying down, and you see him fall, pulls the trigger, see him fall, no sound. And then here comes Lizzie, and she doesn't give a shit that her beautiful linens are getting, I mean, she's in 8 inches of wet mud, Magnum Mills. And she tells him what happened with Arthur replacing the bullets. And she says, if you want to take an easy way out, here's 6 of them right here. And that was just dope as shit. She just proved that she's emerging. They needed a strong figure, female, in Tommy's life here, with Paul gone. And I think they might utilize Lizzie in this role a little bit. And I thought that was a kind of a little bit of a foreshadowing to the type of attitude, the type of power, and the type of kind of resolve she's going to have this season.
Yeah, and I think when we did our predictions, we both kind of talked about who might have to step up to kind of fill that void a little bit for Tommy, and Lizzie and Ada were our 2 primary ideas there. And it does seem to at least some degree that's happening a bit here. And, I kind of also thought this is not really a cop out, but again, you knew the show wasn't going to kill Tommy Shelby here. It would have been incredibly ballsy for them to do it, but just for better or worse, it's, could you have the Sopranos without Tony? Yeah, but not for, I don't know how long you keep it up for. I think same thing for Peaky Blinders. You could have the show without Tommy, but I don't know how long you could really keep the thing spinning for, because he is kind of the center, the gravity that holds it all together. And Paul was right up there with it. So losing her is enough. I don't think there's any way they could have taken her and Tommy off the board basically at the same time. That was just a little too much here. And I think, again, shot really well. And Cillian Murphy, again, so good at the dead eyes, and just he kind of falls and basically plays that, even though he's not, like, he's in shock because he pulled the trigger. He was ready and it didn't happen. So, I thought maybe they do a thing where he fires a gun and it misfires and he's injured for a while or something. And, they didn't quite do that, but a version of that, because apparently he broke his liver.
He definitely broke his liver. And Magnum Mills, you're right. I mean, you had him pulling the trigger, and homie pulled the trigger.
Do you think that was worth it? It was a long, almost 3 years, huge cliffhanger. Do you think they dealt with it in a satisfactory way?
I think given the circumstances, I don't know what else they really could have did with it. And I didn't think they planned on Polly dying, and maybe they would have gone a different direction with it if they didn't have that happen. But to your point, I can't picture them losing 2 of their biggest stars of the show. I think when they decided to end it like that, they kind of made their bet a little bit. I don't know what else they could have did with it. Like, I didn't expect them to die. Like, I don't know what else they could have did with it.
That's about how I feel. This is the outcome that had to happen, really. Tommy was going to have to be back, but it also kind of would have been a cop out for him to not pull the trigger either. So they needed to have something. Either someone had to show up or he had to pull the trigger. Again, I think you nailed it. It's fine. It's not a dramatic, like, holy shit, but they didn't blow it either. So the show gets moving. Peaky's been really good at season premieres, and I think that's where they're at here. So what do we got?
And they made it good, both visually. The scene was incredible with the fog, the mud, and just the attention to detail, bro. Him half face in, Lizzie taking those steps, and the sound, and like everything was shot so perfectly with this opening scene that I thought they made this thing work.
Even the bit after, when he starts walking back and you see actually the IRA truck with the white flag go past him, and Tommy doesn't even register with him. It just goes, and he doesn't even then he gets inside and he drops those. And I kind of wonder, will we ever see those bullets again? He drops them and then he answers the phone, and then it's the IRA chicken, it's on. And they dealt with it as well as they could, I think.
They did, and they also dealt with the IRA storyline. You just get the feeling that was more important than getting creative with who tipped off Oswald. I would have liked to find out if it was, there was so much suspense at that last episode in season 5 where, Finn tips off the other bookie dude and he reaches for the phone, right? You got Michael and his wife, Gina Gray, saying, well, we'll go to plan B because Tommy doesn't accept. So there was a ton of different things they could have did here. I think in the end, they just decided that the IRA being involved was more important. And so they had them essentially kill, Tommy's sniper and tip off Oswald and make sure that didn't happen in terms of the assassination of Oswald going forward.
Yeah. And again, the IRA has basically been in around the show. They've been more central at certain times than others, but it does make sense here, especially as they're approaching World War II, to kind of bring that back into the plot. And I think that makes more sense than, say, bringing the Russians back or introducing a new faction, or, it's the Italians again. I don't really have a problem with it. I'm struggling again to figure out, short of having, it be like Arthur's, doing like some dramatic, huge twist. I think this was probably a fine way to go. The only other option probably would have been, like you said, to let it play directly into like the Michael revenge storyline or whatever. But again, because that's before Paul dies. So
Right.
he doesn't quite have the motivation to be at that point yet. I think up to that point, it's more about his wife kind of in his ear trying to get him to turn against Tommy. Like he's not against the idea, but he's not quite all the way there yet. And this is, what we'll talk about here, the scene at the funeral. I think we see him officially kind of over the edge.
Yeah, and before we get to the proper, the funeral scene, I just want to talk a little bit about how the show handled Polly's death. We touched on this in our opening comments. I like it. I think this is about as good as they can do. And one thing that excites me, Magnum Mills, is I think Polly is going to be in this show throughout the entire season. And what I mean by that is you're already starting to see Tommy now talking to her. We saw that when he realizes that Ruby, Ruby's got the fever. She's speaking in Romani, and she's, she may be cursed, right? And he's heading home. And he's telling Paul, he thinks he hears her and sees her. They're after me, Paul. Like, I just, is already in his head where you can hear Polly's voice repeating. There's going to be a war. One of you's going to die. I'm just not sure who. I think we're going to get Polly throughout this entire season. And that's cool, dude, because I was a massive Polly fan. I mean, dude, she started off season 5, like her opener while music was playing was she was just getting her box munched, dude. Like she's just getting eaten out, smoking her cigarette, being a badass. Like Polly's awesome. And I thought they handled this kind of the best way they could. And again, it set up the kind of the revenge storyline, which I think they always were going to go. They were going to go there anyway. So
yeah, it's just one of those things. We want to love the Shelbys. We don't want to see them fight each other. And I'm still trying in the back of my head, trying to figure out a way that they can somehow have to come together or whatever to fight a bigger foe. Hopefully that happens. That's something maybe we can do for predictions. But as far as Polly, I thought the scene itself was very touching. They show all of her, I guess that's what they do probably they burn not only your body, but all of your possessions or whatever. I guess possibly somebody deal with the curses and kind of their belief system, whatever. And we see that really affects Tommy later in the episode. So, I think it is a very important kind of cultural moment or touchstone for them. And, again, it's one of those things you see them all, the whole Shelby clan's there together. And it makes you wonder, how many times will we ever see them all together in the same place again?
That's a really good point. And dude, I'm a fan of the Romani gypsy shit, dude. Like having gone to Europe, like gypsies are still a real thing, dude. Like you don't really think about it in America, but like in America, it's like you just think it's people who travel. Like no, it's a thing, dude, in Europe. And anyway, so I'm a fan.
I mean, I got mine figured out, dude. I checked the organ donor card, and when I'm done, give me the Frank Reynolds, dude. Just throw me in the trash. It's cool.
Put his liver. That's going with you. You guys have been through way too much. At the funeral, Magnum Mills, we saw Michael officially, as you mentioned, vow revenge on Tommy, saying that he will, in fact, get it. Speaking of Tommy, he gave up alcohol, dude. And like, look, man, I'm all for people making healthy decisions and finding their inner zen and everything else. I don't know. I kind of miss Tommy with a drink in his hand. Like, I just miss Tommy drinking whiskey, dude. Like, whiskey, Irish. Like, I just miss that. I don't know. It's not as cool with him not drinking, I guess. Maybe I'm
yeah, I mean, would circle back around to that, I would say, like, on the Michael thing, I agree with everything. Just it's kind of when he was talking, you kind of wonder, like, should he have maybe not been saying that out loud, where, like, you see Tommy right behind him, like, no one else could hear him, like, vowing revenge. That must have been a pretty loud fire. Just I know it was meant for the audience or whatever, but the way they shot it, it makes it look like there's about 3 feet between him and everyone else, and he's talking it basically his normal speaking voice. Just saying, Michael, I mean, step one to revenge, you better be ready when you declare revenge. You the plan better be all set already. You don't declare revenge before you actually formulate the revenge
in front of the person you're seeking revenge on. It would have been one thing if he was just telling Gina, his wife, but he just kind of said it I think he said it to his mom.
Yeah, I mean, it was right. It was just a step down from Michael Scott declaring bankruptcy. I mean, it was very close.
It was Magnum Mills.
In the Tommy thing, I think it's interesting. I don't think it sticks. Maybe we'll talk about that in our predictions at the end here, and whether it will or not. But I do think they showed, especially in the scene at the bar we'll get to here, just how sharp Tommy is right now when he shoots the bird right out of the air. He shoots the phone. And this is a guy who didn't remember to check if his gun was loaded before he put it to his own head. So whether he needed to or not, whether he was overindulging or he had to quit completely or whatever, it does seem that he's in a somewhat better place. But then we do see at the end of the episode that just because he's not drinking doesn't mean that he's not still dealing with his demons.
Absolutely. I'm all for him giving up the liquid opium or whatever, the Lugnan or whatever it is, but Tommy needs a drink. We'll see. I don't think it lasts. We'll talk about that in predictions. Man, we got to talk a little bit about the plot with Arthur, the women, and the children at Christmas. Dude, I mean, what type of shit did Arthur get himself into heading into this episode, bro? Like, basically, like, don't get me wrong. He looks cool. His hair is long. He's all disheveled and fucked up. But this sounds horrible. But the character Arthur on coke is way better than the character Arthur smacked out on opium. Am I right here, Magnum Mills?
Yeah, you know, and this is a little bit of a regular thing we'll do here where it's all about Arthur. We want to make sure that we highlight our guy. And my guess is he's on everything. I mean, just whatever. Like, he's probably like what was it, like Ozzy Osbourne did a line of ants once or something. Yeah, I think Arthur don't care. I mean, he's playing finger guns with the kids falling down the stairs, man. He does not give a fuck. Because really, think about it. We did not see a lot of Arthur in the episode. We saw him at the funeral, just the one shot that you got of everybody else. Then he's too fucked up to put on the Santa Claus costume. Then we see him all fucked up, put the suit on in the kitchen. Then we see him at the opium den, and that's pretty much it. That was Arthur in the whole episode, and I think his most memorable line was, He might have made a couple of gun sounds when he's doing the finger guns. I'm not sure. That might have been that might have been.
I mean, he did manage to pull off a couple of pretty sick finger guns, dude, but then he fell down the stairs. So it's kind of
probably while wearing his real gun, so not the greatest.
Yeah.
So that actually the treatment Arthur here, I get why they're doing it from a narrative standpoint. I think they're basically trying to take him and Tommy in just two completely different directions here. Whereas Tommy's decided, oh, I'm going to get that's how he's dealing with it by getting sober. Arthur's gone the other way, and he's like, oh no, I'm doubling down. Screw getting sober. Like, I'm going all the way. I'm going to find out what's at the bottom of this bottle.
Yeah, man, he's chasing the dragon for sure. I got to talk, Magnum Mills, about the encounter at the bar in the big meeting. I'm not going to lie, bro. This combination was my favorite scene throughout the entire episode. Okay, I love just the scene where Tommy walks in, everyone stares at him. He's got the paper, prohibition's ending that day at midnight, and all those workers and boatsmen in there are drunk, mad, and pissed off, and they think he is the reason why prohibition is ending. And so that creates a very tense scene, and he's so calm, cool, and collected, and he waits until absolutely provoked, and then he just fucking owns this dude, right? And I love that we saw him speak French too. That was very cool, very well done. Again, shot really cool. But yeah, he just slices this dude's face open, shoots a fucking dove out of the air and the phone, and then just calmly walks into his meeting. And then the meeting, this was one group trying to alpha the other and big dick each other. And at the moment, it looked like Tommy had won. And then it shifts back to, the Uncle Jack crew with the Boston Mafia, not Michael, but other homie, right? And they make some very choice comments to kind of big dick Tommy. And Tommy, in the end, wins and tips him off about a rat in their organization with the heart with Melinda. I mean, fucking awesome, dude. Just Tommy Shelby at his best, as you mentioned, super sharp. And then he walks out and he tells the guy who's getting his face stitched up, he passes him the business card and he says, don't burn this one. Because what he's doing, and what I love about this, and this actually could have been this is my runner-up for my best line of the episode. What I love about this is he tells him every catastrophe is an opportunity. And that is absolutely true in life. And we're going to see it with what happens, in the world right now. It's just every catastrophe, there's an opportunity. And that's what it is. And he's going to use these guys who know the routes from bootlegging liquor to use these guys to bootleg his opium. So just this scene, hands down, awesome for me from start to finish.
Yeah, again, and they really set it up well from the, it takes Tommy a minute to get there because the episode kind of opens after that with the credit title, and then you get him kind of walking through the town. Peaky does. I'll indulge them in their little slow-mo smoke rising, drop the needle on the song joint because it's always fucking cool. And Tommy's even got a little dog follow. It's like, oh, Tommy have a dog? But we don't see the dog again, but I was really excited for it that Tommy's going to have a dog. Just cool. And you kind of sit down, he orders water. It's like, oh yeah, something's up. And, again, great line with the dude asking, oh, where'd you learn how to speak French? And he's like, France? Like, what the fuck, dude?
A lot of things in France, dude. He learned a lot of things in France.
Yeah, it's just little things, and then the meeting, the thing with the, you do have to be reading the subtitles, but that's why the birds were in there because they had accident upstairs. The windows got blown out, so there are pigeons everywhere. So that's why you see the bird he shoots there. And then at the end, there's another bird. And why when they open the thing for the meeting, some of the windows are taped over, busted out, that kind of thing. And you even see when Tommy goes to put his hat away. Watch how he folds it or whatever. It's to make sure the razor blades don't fucking shit up. It's just a small little thing, but it's attention to detail that I love with this show. And again, the meaning is great. The William Blake choice for the poetry he recites is pretty interesting. You hear Tommy talking about like, oh, I'm not a poet yet. He's really trying to, whether it's better himself or broaden his horizons or whatever he is, this is how he's choosing to deal with, both his grief and whatever the new normal is for him really at this point.
I do read poetry, but I don't write it yet. Yeah. You gotta love, this is Tommy Shelby at its best, bro. And speaking of Tommy at his best, him playing Michael here, he's putting on a fucking class on how to do this shit, dude. He lied about the informant, then snitched on Michael, and then we'll talk about it a little bit later in the episode.
Snitch on him with the sample of drugs that he set him up to have.
Yes, dude.
He definitely knew. Yeah,
Tommy is a strategist at heart, and he was very well prepared in this one. I thought it was really cool, and that was his way of gaining back power and kind of alphaing, Big Dicking a little bit, the Boston mob, who came up into his meeting and tried to kind of flex on him a little bit, pouring the water.
And I also think he was trying to test Michael too, just because he doesn't. He's talked about Michael a little bit before with Paul, like about what he would do if it came down to it or whatever. And I think so. He's honestly at this point too trying to figure out, both is Michael that sharp, or is it maybe he's not the one? Maybe it's really his wife Gina. Maybe she's really the one who's kind of calling the shots, so to speak.
Absolutely. And speaking of calling the shots, Magnum Mills, we should probably touch on Uncle Jack Nelson. And I think we're just going to assume that's who Stephen Graham's going to play. Not
Al
Capone that we wanted, but that's okay. I think he'll still be a good Uncle Jack. The first thing that when they started saying Uncle Jack in Boston, the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, this is Jack Kennedy, right?
From basically what we can tell that, basically they're going off of that they are the Kennedys. He is a little bit of an analog for JFK's dad, Joseph P. Kennedy Sr., who was a Boston-born businessman, politician, father again to JFK, Robert Kennedy, I think brother of Senator Ted Kennedy. So the Kennedys, this is America. There's not the families. They're one of the families. So, I think this will add a lot of intrigue here because again, this is a family that's supposed to be connected everywhere, both from, everywhere from the street level up to, as alluded to, the White House. Again, real life, he came up, and I believe both in the show and in actual real life, at the end of Prohibition, they did exactly what they're talking about here, going to Europe and buying these import-export license to basically, once liquor comes back into the country, now that's legal again, gain control over that. Previously it's been reported different ways, but they were obviously involved with the bootlegging, smuggling, that kind of thing before, during Prohibition, and possibly even some other illicit activities before that.
Magnum Mills, we finally get to know a little bit more about Gina here. And I think we should specifically focus on her scenes with Michael in jail and her scene with Tommy at her place. But before, and I shouldn't even say place, a fucking palace she lived in. Like that shit was like, I was like, is she in
It's like
Greece
some Gatsby
right
shit
now?
or something, right?
Yeah,
It
like that
looked
was
a
wild,
castle.
bro.
Like you can't figure that's supposed to be in the city, right? But that's got to be like, the penthouse, I guess, or something, because God damn, that's a,
that was boss.
And I'm assuming that's a real life
about
location. Maybe I don't even know how they would do that on a set. That's something. Again, the show continues to do amazing set work.
Absolutely, man. One thing that bothered me about Gina, and maybe I'm nitpicking here a little bit, Magnum Mills, but I felt like last season when we found her accent was extremely New York. I felt like she had a total New York accent, right? Like a Brooklyn accent. Now, I don't know what she's doing. It's a strange accent. I don't think she can really do a Boston accent. And so it's like no accent, but a little bit of hints of New York. It's strange to me. That's all I want to say about that. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm weirding on her accent a little bit. Did you notice that at all?
It was more about her delivery than her actual accent. I thought that the whole thing was going to be she was coked up or something like that. It seems that she talks about, just whatever if it's legal. But she seems to be like almost like giddy high kind of in the scene with her and Tommy in her apartment. And I think you do see in her scene with Michael that she is the brains of the operation here. I don't really think there's a lot of doubt. Michael is basically doing what she says. She's smarter than him, and given that most of his come up in America has probably been due to her connections with Uncle Jack, she basically has complete power. Like she has the hand in that relationship. So, And I think that's
she
one
has
thing,
hand, dude.
She
has
has
hand.
hand. She has hand. She has. That's what the implication is, and I think that's kind of one of the things that Tommy was trying to do, was drive a little bit of a wedge between Michael, her, and Uncle Jack with the jail thing, because then they all have to decide. Does Uncle Jack want to use his political influence to spring Michael, even though it would look bad? Is Gina willing to use her influence with Uncle Jack to get him out, even though that might be a favor she can't use for something else? And then, how is Michael going to feel about these two most important people in his life kind of just toying with his freedom?
Yeah.
So I think that's what was, kind of what Tommy was going for there, because it did surprise me a bit when he came right out and said that, oh yeah, and I was the one who turned Michael in. That kind of, I thought he was seeding kind of a long game there, and I couldn't decide. Like, I guess maybe it didn't really matter to his long-term play, but after watching the scene a couple of times, I'm like, oh, he just wants to put her in her place at this point. She's flying high or whatever, and he is just like, all right, Icarus, you're a little bit close to the sun here.
Yeah, flying a little too, and just wait till how Michael's going to feel when Tommy bangs her, because I swear to God it's coming, right? I mean, was there some crazy sexual tension there?
For sure. Weirdly, and I think that's kind of what's
tension.
going. But yeah, and she has the whole thing where she talks about getting on her knees and it's like really
opening her mouth and shit.
Yeah, I mean about it's kind of a little bit of a power play. You can see, I guess that's the dynamic going between them. Tommy's just Tommy, and but you watch her, and she really she thinks she really has the upper hand the whole time. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh no, John Doe is the upper hand.
No, man, she had hand. I just think too, she'll realize that Michael isn't the powerhouse in the Shelby family and wanna crack at Tommy and use her. I don't know. I see that coming, bro, just to continue to add to this revenge between Michael and Tommy. And Magnum Mills, finally, let's talk about that awesome final scene between Tommy and Michael in prison. How clutch is Tommy, dude, and just has an ability to just put a dark dagger directly in your heart and in your back at the same time. I mean, he's just cold-hearted here, bro. You gotta love it.
I think at this point, Tommy had assessed what he needed to know about where Michael stands, both with Gina and with Uncle Jack. So he knows now, he can fuck with Michael a little bit. If he was really in with that, he would have been out of jail already. Maybe Tommy backs off a little bit. But here you see him giving the letter, toying with him. And then at the end, of course, when he reveals that, oh yeah, I know, because Gina, again, I don't know if Tommy already knew or not. I'm assuming he didn't, about Uncle Jack's plans to go to Europe and everything. But then, because he's Tommy, he finds out that they're booked and they're going, overseas with Eisenhower's kid and everything. And that Gina's going, and that Tommy will be happy to show her around London and kind of gives him a little. And yeah, dude,
he's going to show her. All right. He's going to show her all the way around. I mean, you just got to feel like that's coming. And maybe that's a little bit of psychological warfare as Michael sits in prison and wonders if Tommy's banging his wife. But it's also maybe a little bit of truth in that, dude. I do kind of think that there's a weird thing brewing there between Tommy and Gina.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. I just can't. I'm I can't help myself. It's just I want to blurt it out. But it as far as the prediction thing, I think that we see Tommy once again winds up drinking, and I think the first time he gets drunk, he winds up having the relations with Gina.
I could see it, brother. I could see it, dude. And one last thing before I move on, it's just going to be really hard all season to refer to the guy as Uncle Jack and not think about Uncle Jack from Always Sunny and the weird relationship between Charlie and Uncle Jack, who's got if I knew you were coming, I would have put my hands on. I mean, it's sorry, I digress.
No, and then there's also, that's not even, then there's Uncle Jack from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Throw me. Famous Uncle Jack. So
yes. Throw me. He just comes into the room being carried. Yes. All right. We digress. Let's get back. This is the PBP, the Peaky Blinders podcast. In Magnum Mills, it's getting closer and closer to the point we're going to have to give this episode some red right hands. But first, let's hand out some hardware, baby. Let's what awards are we handing out here, man?
Honestly, pretty simple here. We're each going to pick a couple of things. We're going to pick our favorite moment or favorite scene of the episode, our favorite line of the episode, and our episode MVP. We'll go in that order. Jamie G, what was your favorite moment or scene of Black Day? I think you told us already, but tell the people one more time.
I did, Magnum Mills. I kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit here. And you know what, dude? This is an episode of the Peaky Blinders podcast where we're going to spoil some shit. And I spoiled my own shit. But my favorite moment, I got to go back to that bar scene with the meeting and then back to the bar scene. I just thought it was so well done, from the burning of the card to handing him the card at the end there and everything that happened in between. Just Tommy Shelby at his best. And I just don't know that you could have done a better scene there, but there were several to pick from that were, candidates here for me as best scene. But by far, that bar scene to me, just, that was it, man. That was the bee's knees.
Yeah, I mean, that was on the list for me. Polly's funeral was on the list, even though that was a little bit more kind of an understated scene. But I have to go with a scene we just talked about a hot second ago here, and that's that scene between Tommy and Gina, because that is just not only a great scene between two great actors, but that's just, we haven't seen anything like that scene on Peaky Blinders. I mean, the music, it's bright, it's white, it's like right out of the fucking Gatsby. It's, we haven't really, and Tommy's perfectly comfortable, and you see her dancing around and talking great. And Tommy, he's a chameleon at this point, man. Just like, like the predator in the jungle there, he's a chameleon. He just blends right in now. Nothing phases this guy anymore. And I just think that was a great scene. Again, I like the one-upsmanship where Gina thinks she has the upper hand, and Tommy's just kind of sitting there knowing the whole time, just quietly letting her talk, gaining free information, loving it. And then right before he is going to, just spin her around, turn her upside down.
Not to be confused with Chameleon riding dirty. Gotta catch me riding dirty. Magnum Mills, let's go to best line. This one was, man, this was a tough one because there were a lot of good lines in this episode, dude. Like there just was. For me, I'm gonna go to the scene at the end where Tommy's in the prison with Michael, and Michael tries to get one last dig at him and say, haven't you learned? Your refusal to recognize your own limitations caused my mom to die. And Tommy just looks back and looks at him and says, I have no limitations. And that was kind of a callback to, first of all, it was a badass thing to say, but it was a callback to the beginning of the episode where Tommy's on the phone with the IRA, and they're essentially telling him, your family is dead. This is your fault. Your family is dead because of your ego and your refusal to know your own limitations. And I just thought that was really cool how they called it back, and he did it in such a boss ass fashion. And Michael with his little mustache and his little crossed arms, and it was a good setup, and I thought it was a powerful moment.
Yeah,
Tommy believes that shit, dude. Like, I think he, like, no question, he believes he has no limitations.
Yeah, he is at this point, and I think that's probably words again we've seen, like, he takes stuff to heart. And so I think after that conversation, that's probably what happened there. And for me, that line was way up there. But I have to go with one that I thought was kind of true and relevant to these times, and maybe a little bit funnier. And that's when Tommy tells Michael, an Irishman with a mortgage is a powerful resource, Michael. Like, I just love that because, again, he's like, these dudes got bills to pay when he's talking about the mole or whatever, just sold perfectly. And you just hear that line and like, you totally believe it. So, that's right there for me. And that just leaves the MVP, the most valuable Peaky, Jamie G. Who you giving the big trophy to?
Yeah, I kind of let this cat out of the bag a little bit earlier too, but I'm giving it to Lizzie, bro. I thought it was really important for them to establish, and they did it a little bit with Ada too, but I really like where they're going with Lizzie. I think they can take her character to new levels this season, and I just thought it was so powerful as Tommy's laying there in shock and disbelief, just face in the mud. Again, the dead eye and the face movement acting of Cillian Murphy. Just incredible work. And then all of a sudden you just hear this sludging footsteps and you realize here she comes marching through this fucking 8 inches of wet slop mud, getting her goddamn silks dirty, and she don't care. And Lizzie just comes out there like a badass dude, and she basically tells him, Arthur took the bullets out. What type of soldier are you? You don't even check your own weapon. And, if you're looking for an easy way out, here's 6 of them right here, and just drops all 6 bullets. I mean, that was like, that shit was, dude, that was boss-like, man. And I just thought it really established Lizzie's character. I'm excited to see the role she plays in this season and beyond.
I really agree with you there. I really like the role she's been playing here. And like, we've discussed, maybe she takes a little bit of that, of kind of maybe the responsibilities that Polly had going forward, or at least maybe that kind of role of a sounding board for Tommy. And man, there were a couple ways I could have gone here. I did also think about Lizzie, and I also thought about giving it to Tommy's liver, who is probably, since the time he was like 5, has never had 4 years without alcohol. So shout out Tommy's liver. Really here, this is going to be a big surprise because one of my dislikes for the episode is how they dealt with Arthur, but I'm still going to give my MVP to Arthur because he was smart enough to know to take those bullets out of the gun. I'd really tried to figure out, how they were going to get out of this with Tommy. And I think that's also important too, to prove that, illustrate how fucked up Arthur is now. Because back then he was still getting, pretty fucked up at the end of season 5, but he still had his wits about him enough to know when Tommy had to like pull over and puke and he's talking where that something was going on, and he had the presence of mind to do that. So I'm here. I have to give the MVP to Arthur fucking Shelby, because without him, I don't know how we'd have season 6 of Peaky Blinders. So I think that's pretty fucking valuable.
Arthur, he's totally fucking valuable, and well done, dude. On one of our dislikes, turn it into MVP, but hard.
It's a big moment, though. He took the bullets out of the gun.
Moment,
that had to happen.
Moment.
Someone had to do it, and I'm glad it was our man Arthur. And before we get to the red right hands, you kind of mentioned that was that was something I disliked. Do you have any other major likes or dislikes that we really didn't get to?
Yeah, not really, Magnum Mills. I mean, there were a couple little things here and there. Like, again, like neither one of us like that Michael has a douchey mustache, but I mean, that's not.
I like that he has it because it's funny, but I dislike it because it's horrible looking.
It's terrible looking. Like,
it's great. It's like, I'm laughing at it, not with it. I guess, is that the proper way to phrase it?
Yes,
which I think is the joke. I think it's intentionally over the top, but yes, and it's period appropriate. I wouldn't say that, but
it is period appropriate. I guess, Arthur really was the main one for me. Just because I love the character, but I'm sure they're going to do something with him. And I'm sure the actor, the person who does such a great job. This is a new challenge taking on. They're always doing something with Arthur, right? He's fucking sober. He's drunk. He's crazy on coke. He's banging chicks. He's married. He's suicidal. Like, they're always doing something with him. And so I'm excited to see where it goes, but it wasn't my favorite Arthur episode. That's for sure. Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Arthur, he only does like 10 things, but he's really great at those 10 things. And yeah, we pretty much talked about all the stuff on my list. Again, just want to shout out the music choices here, the wardrobe, the scene overall, the scenery, the locations they've chosen, whatever CGI they're using. It's fantastically well integrated. That stuff's always great on Peaky. Looks like their budget got a little bit of a bump up for this final season, and you can see it on screen. I think it's pretty great. And I will just say that I'm not, again, super wild about the Michael revenge plot. I get why we have to have it. Again, I'm just not big on the Shelby and Shelby crime. And I thought the Boston gangsters were a little bit weak overall. I didn't get the same feeling you got, say, when you met the Italians or the Russians thing. They didn't really blow me away. So I'm hoping that Uncle Jack will make up for that. And they well could, because Stephen Graham's great. And I'm assuming he's playing Uncle Jack. Although I'm hoping maybe he plays 2 roles. He's Simon Capone.
It would be great to have him as Capone and do a repeat with Boardwalk Empire.
I'm crossover, dude. I want to see Chalky White one more time, man.
Chalky was our guy, dude. One thing I will say, bro, before we give this thing a couple red right hands, is that I thought the rendition of Ain't No Grave was fucking awesome. And it was perfectly done in this show. And I mean, that's one of my favorite Johnny Cash songs. Awesome song. And they used it really well here. And I just thought that was a cool moment, dude. This show's always been pretty good with music. And again, we talked about how crazy it is when you take a period piece and you're listening to music that's not appropriate to the. It's like if Forgot About Dre was playing as freaking the Lannisters rolled up to Winterfell. I mean, it would be a wild scene, right? But it works in the show, and it worked here. I thought that was really cool. Anyways, with that said, Magnum.
Well, no, see, really, what would happen is you would have when the Starks went down to King's Landing, because they would be going south, so they would probably be appropriate to play Welcome to Atlanta. But dude, the Jermaine Dupri. Now I'm just trying to. Now I'm like, boy, let's edit some Game of Thrones themes to some hitbox songs. But no, seriously, this show has always been great, and I did think you're one of the first period appropriate pieces of music. I think with the jazz that was playing in Gina's apartment, I believe that was actually like, if you were listening to stuff then over the radio, that's a lot of what you would have heard, and that would not fit tonally well with, think about that music in other scenes of the show. Although I know, again, it wasn't all like that, but they need some darker, just music that didn't exist back then. I think again,
absolutely, and I think they've done it once before, maybe in the bar that Sabrina owns in London. There's
maybe a little bit,
stuff,
there.
Maybe a little bit, but
sing
by and large, it's like
hey, anything that's not diegetic
Irish
basically has
rock.
been anachronistic.
Yep. Magnum Mills, this was an awesome episode, dude. Really set the tone for what I think is going to be a fantastic season. Typical Peaky. This is the PBP, the Peaky Blinders podcast. I am Jamie G. He is Magnum Mills, and we have to grade this episode, baby. So to do that, we're going to give this thing some red right hands, Magnum Mills. How many you got on this? You kick us off. What was your final grade on episode 1, season 6?
Yeah, pretty simple here. It's, again, scale 0 to 10. The more hands, the better. And I'm not really going to mess around here. 9.0. This isn't, all the way up kind of. The episode had a ton of work to do after, the death of Polly being gone 3 years off the screen with a 4-year time jump. I think it handles it all well. Maybe, again, Arthur, the women and children get a little bit of the short shrift here, but to do all they did without doing an extended episode, something had to give a little bit. Really enjoyed what they set up here. And, I think 9 is good because great episode. Rewatched it a couple times, but I also need to be some room to grow because I'm hoping we keep edging up towards that 10 as we get later into season 6 here.
I hope so too. I hope it's nonstop edging until we climax at a 10. Hopefully the final episode of this season. Magnum Mills, I'm right there with you, bro. I'm going just a hair higher at 9.2. For me, the reason with that is there's basically nothing I absolutely hated. There's really no storyline going on right now that I'm not happy about. Yeah, the Michael revenge thing, but I kind of just accepted it was already going to happen. So I'm not, and I think it could be cool. And I honestly don't know that it pans itself out this season. I think maybe that bleeds over into the movie. We'll find out, but that creates a little bit of excitement and suspense for me. So, 9.2 for me all day, dude. I just thought it was so brilliantly shot. The writing was fantastic. It moved along. There wasn't a dull moment. And I'm really excited about it. It somehow managed to do all that and set up serious foundations and building blocks for a couple of key storylines that are just going to be incredible as this thing unfolds. And we're going to get new characters. I mean, this is going to be an outstanding season, bro.
Yeah, I really can't wait. And, I guess in that vein, before we get out of here, I think we should, either make a couple of well thought out predictions or maybe a couple of wild ass speculations. I don't know, you heard me drop one before that. I think Tommy will drink again, probably sooner than later, and that will lead to him having sex with Gina. What do you think, Tommy? Is he drinking again? Yes or no?
Yes.
What's the under over what episode Tommy Evans is he getting off the wagon?
4.
No, I was gonna say 3. So all right, we're in the same ballpark there. You got to hit me. You got to give me something here. Give me one prediction.
Well, I got a feeling that our boy Arthur, we'll have a lot more talk about next week on All About Arthur, because I think he gets off the opium, and it just might be that for the second or third or God knows how many times, Tommy saves Arthur with a little bit of Tokyo. That's right. He gives him a little bit of snow, a little bit of cocaine, gets him right off the opium, gets him back and focused and mellowed out, because, that's what cocaine does to people. If you're Arthur fucking Shelby, it does. I mean, this is Arthur, dude. And I think he becomes regains his spot as such a key character. It may take another episode or two, but I think he comes back and he becomes a very key character as the season rolls on.
Oh, yes, that cocaine, that performance enhancing drug. And my prediction on that is that at the same time that Tommy starts drinking again, Arthur gets sober. So like 2 ships crossing, and then, you know what I mean? Like how they stay opposed. That all of a sudden, As soon as Arthur starts to get his shit together, Tommy starts going downhill. So
yeah,
just, I don't know. That seems to me to kind of be, again, from a writing standpoint, I think that would make a lot of sense and be kind of interesting as well. Yeah, like as I said before, Gina, I predicted she's really the brains of the operation, but between her and Michael, I think that's pretty obvious. So that's an easy one. Again, Stephen Graham playing Uncle Jack, pretty easy. And the one that's a little bit more towards the overarching plot is, I think in the long run, what Tommy's going to try to do is he's going to try to pit the IRA and Uncle Jack against each other, try to get them to take each other out. I think that's the best move he has on the board right now. So that's kind of my big prediction.
Love it. Love it. I'll throw just a couple other predictions in there. We've seen them do this once or twice with Michael, where he's either been in the hospital bed for the bulk majority of a season or all season. I think Michael stays in prison for a little bit here. And I think maybe he's not as huge of a character as, you know, it's setting up to be with this revenge plot line. And I think maybe that bleeds the revenge over into the movie ultimately, and it doesn't even get settled this episode. We'll find out. But I think Michael stays in prison for a little bit here. Magnum Mills, it wouldn't shock me if he's in prison the entire season, or maybe gets out right at the end. But I think that he's going to be there. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on just a little bit is I think that we're going to see Tommy work together, and maybe for the first time in the history of the show, he's going to work together with Alfie Solomons, and Alfie is not going to screw him over and stab him in the back, maybe for the first time in the show. But I do think that's probably not as likely, but I do think they work together and incorporate the East Boston Jews, which I think is a really cool extension of Alfie Solomons.
I'll settle for an Alfie triple cross.
It wouldn't, Alfie, you know, if one thing we know about Alfie, homie does a cross, but it's almost like when Tommy shot him in the face, that he's like, all right, maybe I'll stop screwing Tommy over, dude. You know, I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, maybe
that would have been the other thing if he double crossed him and tipped off the IRA. Like, you know, could you imagine that though? The head of the Jews tipping off the IRA, like that would be about the fascists. Like, but you never know. Like maybe that would be a double secret probation cross.
I mean, what if they just keep almost killing Alfie to the point he becomes a literal zombie, and that's what starts the zombie pandemic in The Walking Dead, and it's another crossover event.
Oh my God, yeah, that's that they're looking for additional crossovers because they only have 37. So.
I mean, they
in a row.
They can't air them in a row. That's the main problem. If they could air them in a row, it would work.
Magnum Mills, as far as predictions go, I'm just going to say this, and this will round us out. The season's going to be fantastic. It's going to be awesome. It's going to end in a cliffhanger, incredible way. And I think we're going to enjoy all 6 of them. And good news, folks, we'll be right here on PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast, breaking them down for you each and every week, just the way you like, at a medium pace.
Not too hard, not too soft.
Soft.
And we're going to be right back here next week to talk about episode 2 of season 6, titled Black Shirt, which is scheduled to air Sunday, March 6th on BBC One.
Magnum Mills, I have to take a moment and thank everyone for listening, subscribing. Make sure to like, follow, and shit, man, shoot us an email. Magnum Mills, tell them where they can find all of our ridiculously awesome free content. Did we mention it's free?
You're supposed to say it 3 times so they remember it. This is why he didn't pass the sales training. And again, like man said, this is PBP, Peaky Blinders Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching for PBP, Peaky Blinders. Find us on social media at Peaky Podcast. If you have any feedback, you can email us at peakyblinderspodcast@gmail.com. We're from the Joe Blow Football Show, who you can find at joeblowfootballshow.com and on social media at Joe Blow Show. We also do some fantasy football, dynasty football, DFS, wagering, fun stuff, make you a couple bucks. Again, won't cost you nothing. That's the Seize the Gap Fantasy Football Podcast. Find that by searching for Seize the Gap Fantasy on your favorite podcast platform. I'm Magnum Mills. That's Jamie G. Thank you again for listening or watching. And remember, everyone has a plan.
Until you get hit with the red right hand.
See you next week.
This has been PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We are not in any way affiliated with Peaky Blinders, BBC Studios, or Netflix. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Any views or opinions expressed here are personal and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations who may or may not be associated with the Joe Blow Football Show. If you have any questions, please contact us at peakyblinderspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. By order of the Peaky fucking Blinders.